I've got nothing to say, really. I could just leave this room, and it would be awesome for me. Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to have an opportunity to give you some thoughts and share with you some thoughts that I collected in my whole career. So the subject is practical DevSecOps implementation, and I like to stick the word practical everywhere because we are doing so many things just for the sake of doing them that I really want to push practicality a lot. In my career, I've made a ton of mistakes. I've been in IT commercially over 11 years, so that's quite a time, quite a journey, and I cannot sit in one place, so I've changed it multiple times. I've changed my roles multiple times, and I've got some cool stuff to share with you. These things I want to share with you are not going to be just the summaries of past 11 years. I want to share with you the most practical things that you can take away from my journey and make your journey more worthwhile. And I wish someone had told me all those things that I'm about to tell you today many years ago. Maybe that would have saved me some health, time, and relationships. Maybe it would have given me some opportunity to live a life instead of grinding out everything in my small apartment trying to figure out what it's all about. But that's I'm going to dig deeper later, and let's dive in. So what I want to do really, what I want to accomplish is changing this to something better. Something that maybe not as attractive, because this looks great, we like it, we make fun out of it, but it's no fun. Having had been working in IT security for 8 years, something about this commercially, it's pain. So it's looking awesome, but it's not something you want to be doing on a daily basis at your work. Even though the pay is fine, I don't really want to fix crap of other people. So when I'm talking about converting software engineers into security advocates, I wish I could do this because it would make my life much more simpler, and drugs such as alcohol can be useful while working in security. But what I want to really achieve is something like this. And there are crazy people enough on this planet that created this picture. So this speaks volume about how important this is. So someone was tripping very hard and created this picture, which was awesome, inspired me to do some things more practically. And the question is, okay, but you're talking about yourself, which is right. I need to feed my ego a bit. But now it's all about you, and why would you care? And I don't really know, but I've spent so much time digging into the security-related subjects that it's a shame not to share that. Like, I don't want to look in the past 10 years and having had not enjoyed life anyhow, socially, I really want to put some value into this. So at least I can say, yeah, so I've built something, I've shared with other people, now they can have better lives than I had. So here we go. And obviously, we have reasons to care about security. And we have some things that we are aware of, especially in IT industry. The service Have I Been Pwned has published over 5 billion credentials leaked from various sites and databases. So there's a lot of stuff that's leaking and that companies aren't protecting well enough. And for me, that's a good enough reason to just make a show of. But for real, like, we look at this and we don't really care that much about privacy. What we care about really is something more in the lines of this. We really don't like these things to leak. Like, we post dumb stuff in those websites. So obviously this sometimes happens, maybe not true for all, but those leakages happen. Whatever makes you tick, whatever inspires you, that's cool. People have various reasons to care about security. But working in IT industry, we are forced to take care of some things on our day-to-day work. So our companies that pay us money want us to care for security and about security because, well, customers' data is precious. And if customers' data leaks, then we may lose a customer. When we lose a customer that's so disappointed with our security standards, we may have problems with our reputations. Like, it's no fun for a company to have a blog post written about the company or a product that given amount of data has leaked because they have no security staff on board. So I've been there, done that, and it's no fun. there are financial penalties, like we have things like GDPR. You've all heard about this. You had to sign some papers at work about this from your HR teams. And InfoSec and application security can be fun, and I guess that's the reason most of you are here today. Because security has this perception in the society that it's tough. Like you need to have some special skills, some special acumen to do some security, to hack stuff, to secure products. There is so many myths that I want to debunk today, and that makes zero sense to be held true in those days where there is so much knowledge available to all of us for free that it just doesn't make sense to hold on to those myths. So we do care, and even if we don't care personally, our employers make us care. So let's see how we can actually do something about this. But care is one of the most important things. Like the attitude in workplace is a huge thing. So let's go on. And last thing about me, why do I care? Because some smart people predict that by 2022, we are going to have almost 2 million InfoSec jobs not filled by competent professionals. So 2 million people will be needed to secure the innovation that we are coming with on a daily basis. Your company produces some products. There are people that analyze your product and say, okay, so this product should be secured by 10 people. And that's how they come with those numbers. And companies fight a lot for security engineers, for people that are competent in security. Software engineers, DevOps engineers, whoever has some skill or eagerness to put in some work and do some security, they want to have you on board and they're going to compensate your time very well. So it's a fact. We are already missing many people, and by 2022, we are going to be missing almost 2 million people in InfoSec jobs. That's a huge number. And we used to think that as a security-savvy people, sysadmins who turned penetration testers, security testers, engineers, hackers, you name them, that we are going to be able to secure all the things. We are going to be able to fix all the issues that are being discovered. We are going to stop the hackers. And only we can do this because we are those special snowflakes that are competent to do this, and no one else is capable of doing this. But when you look at the numbers, it doesn't make any sense to hold on to that knowledge to ourselves, because sharing it is much better. Because while working for companies where I'm only security engineer, it sucks. There's too much stress, too much workload. So even just for myself to have some more freedom, I'm willing to share with you the knowledge that I acquired that's kind of valuable. So one security engineer cannot secure the company that's having hundreds of software engineers. When you look at the companies such as Facebook and Google, if you would need to have one security engineer securing work produced by each one software engineer, you would need to have a ton of security engineers. And on the whole planet, we don't even have enough people to satisfy Google needs. And what about other companies? Like 99% of other companies that we actually buy products from. So there aren't enough people. So we just need to seek help and training other people to prevent them from making mistakes in the first place, so we don't need to identify them when they're in the production. That makes sense to me. And I do actually believe I'm onto something, because I used to be that person that was doing many things and went through the many paths. So I was a software engineer back in those days when we didn't really call ourselves software engineers. We were programmers, coders, like there was no much fancy things happening around. I spent some years as a system administrator. For a couple of years, I was performing penetration tests, which means I was just seeking for security issues in products of other companies. And then I figured out it would be awesome to join a company. But let's get back to this thing, which is I was a penetration tester and bug hunter. So I found security issues in products produced by all those companies. By those companies and others, but about others you most likely haven't heard of. So these are the biggest companies that I collaborated with, identified issues, and helped them fix those issues for a couple of years. I was a software engineer, And I was astonished when I started learning about security, how easy it is to find security issues in the code of others. And for a couple of years, it haven't even crossed my mind to look at my old code and ask myself a question, was I making the same mistakes as they are doing? No. Ego didn't let me do this. So what I've done instead was I was pointing fingers at engineers from companies such as Facebook, Google, and Amazon, saying how stupid they are, because myself, after learning how to perform penetration tests for a couple of months, was able to identify critical security issues for which Facebook or other companies had to pay me quite a lot of money. So it was a good experience, and it's easy to fall into this trap of judging other people, like how come they may have security issues that I'm able to identify after a couple of months of learning security. And then I've decided to join one of those companies and try to figure out what's wrong. How does that happen? Like, how come such giants, great, huge companies that hire so many great people can afford having security issues? And then I learned about other things, such as actual software engineering and how that all works, so that you do not upload the code via FTP, you do not have months to release a version of a product. In Facebook, you have hundreds, as of now, maybe thousands of releases each day. So it's really tough to secure it all. But we don't really hear about that many security breaches of, I wanted to say Facebook, but it's not valid anymore. So let's say we don't really hear about so many security breaches at companies such as Google or Amazon or Microsoft. So they must have found a way to stop the madness, and stop those issues from getting into production. So guys like myself and guys like other people cannot find those issues. So this was me. A couple of months of learning, penetration testing, security testing, and I was so fired up because I was able to find issues in the products written by people who were earning in 1 month what I was making in a decade. So that was fun. And then I joined a company as an internal security engineer and learned that fixing issues is much harder than identifying them in the first place. Because issues identification, finding security issues, finding vulnerabilities, takes only technical acumen. If you know the technology, if you've digged around enough time in Google and found how to test the product, how to test the technology, it's a no-brainer. You just sit in front of your computer, it takes only your internet connection, and you're ready to go. But when it comes to fixing security issues and patching all those issues that I had identified, I've learned that there is a human element. And I wasn't really good at human element. Like many of us aren't. And that's cool, but I really sucked badly. And I've tried many things, I've failed many things, I've lost many things, I've lost many people who started hating me, because when I joined the first organization as an internal security engineer, what I've done something truly stupid. I was approaching every single software engineer and asking them, how come you may have introduced this security issue that I was able to find so easily? Like, you are a senior software engineer, 15 years in the field, and you cannot patch cross-site scripting vulnerability. You cannot identify it yourselves. And then I've learned what's happening inside of organizations. And after years, literally years, of trying to figure it out, I've understood that it's never an intention of software engineer to write code that looks ugly or introduces security issues. Never have I met a person that on purpose introduces security issues. Like, it doesn't really happen. What happens often is that just they have other stuff to do. And while looking back at my programming career, that was true, but I couldn't really make any self-reflection because I was so hyped up on finding issues and pointing fingers at others. So we've got a bunch of issues that are stopping us from writing code that has lower amount of bugs, and bugs in terms of functional bugs and security issues as well. So we have managers that are expected to deliver a product on time. Like, I haven't ever heard CEO of a company or VP of engineering approaching software manager, and telling him, you know what, take your time, like, easy. Take your people, go on vacation, chill out, get back to work, do some deep work, work remotely, work 4 hours a day, We all read Tim Ferriss' book, so it's awesome, it works, let's do that. It never happens. We have some deadlines, we promise something to customer, we got to deliver. If we do not deliver, we get problems. And if CEO has a customer approaching him that, hey, so you haven't delivered the feature you promised for a couple of weeks overdue, they're going to come to manager who's going to go to software engineers, and it's just a downward spiral of hatred and incompetence. Like, people just need to do something with this responsibility and ownership, and many people cannot handle ownership, so they just move it to other people. And managers then point fingers at software engineers. And when the bug arises in productions and customers find the issues, there is almost never a self-reflection on manager's side, asking themselves, what could be done better? Always the question, it's always a matter of question, what could software engineer do better? What could software tester do better to find that issue earlier, to not introduce this issue earlier? So people are under pressure, and you cannot see that from the outside. We have tight release schedules. We got to deliver. Software engineers aren't given enough time to look at their code, to self-reflect, to conduct proper code review at most companies, to run some tools they want to run, to go on the conferences they want to go, to have certifications, to get the training they need. They just need to do stuff now. And this myopic perception of world that we just look on the short-term gains instead of looking at the long-term strategy is what makes us make so many mistakes. Like, we got to deliver now. We got to release something to production. And then a couple of months or weeks later, we figure out that we've created so much mess that now we need to spend much more time, exponentially much more time, to fix those issues than if we had fixed them in the first place while writing the code. So you've heard about all these movements, shifting to the left, shifting testing to the left, shifting quality to the left. It's all the same thing with security. So just teach software engineers how to not make those mistakes in the first place. We don't need to identify them. Everyone is happy and dancing. So we don't have enough automation, or more often we have too much automation. So we plug, maybe we are forced to plug so many tools to ensure that we have enough coverage of our products, of our platforms, application, and code, that we are overloaded and overwhelmed by the amount of issues that are being identified by those tools. And tools are just tools, and most open source tools aren't as great as commercial tools, and that's just the nature. That's why we have commercial tools, because they are better and some people make money out of it. So there comes a problem with false positives. And people waste time on identifying issues, on looking at the results of scanners and not identifying anything reasonable. So after a while, they just stop ignoring everything, losing an opportunity to find actual security issues or other issues that make sense. And what was one of the biggest issues in the security industry was that we had a huge ego. Like, we used to think that we are exceptional, like we are awesome, we are those crazy hackers, we are the only people capable of performing penetration tests, security testing. What turned out to be the case, everyone can do this because we are no snowflakes. It doesn't take much to learn basics of security. So there are bottlenecks, and the manager's attitude and the soft skills really matter. If someone tells me that, hey, it's all about technicality and it's all about technical skill and you don't need to talk to people, I call it bullshit. Because I know not a single one company, not a single big and successful company that was on the market for a decade, because I'm not talking about those unicorns from Silicon Valley that were awesome for a couple of months and then were gone, while they burned out a lot of money of venture capitals. So you need this human side. You need to talk to people. You need to have the processes in place. And this is what security training used to look like. You were just sitting in front of the person that had some knowledge. They were just throwing some buzzwords around, and they were overhyped and pointing out mistakes and telling you how stupid you are for not knowing that. And that's not really an effective way of doing this. If you happen to have kids, you know what that leads to. If you tell them to do something, they're going to do the opposite if you don't have the right attitude. So this attitude goes two ways. And then we actually came up with an idea to create a training that's relevant, entertaining, and that gives some value to people. So it's not just a checklist that need to be, just a checkbox on a checklist that need to be checked off before release once a year. We've created something to bring value. And when we moved our attitude as a security engineers to bringing value to other people, instead of suffocating or the oxygen in the room, everything changed. And at those great companies, like Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, they figure it out, and they're pretty good at it. If you want to go to a conference, you go to a conference. If you want to train something, you aren't given a book and taught, hey, just read this book and you are going to figure it out. You do workshops. That's how we learn effectively. And workshops, security workshops, can be entertaining, can be awesome. When you get to sit in front of a computer and after maybe 1 hour of listening to a person that's a security expert and teaching you how to use basic tools, how to learn the art of Googling, and you know how to find ways to test the product, and you are given a product or application or a server that you can actually hack, and there are just those crazy blinking things, and you can compare yourself with other colleagues. It's entertaining, it's fun. I haven't ever met a person, a software engineer or a sysadmin, that refused to take part in security workshops that were actual workshops, not like writing on a paper, just doing stuff, trying to hack stuff, because it doesn't take much time to learn the basic concepts. And in the security industry, and many people have tried following approaches. So we've tried yearly security trainings, those borings, just to the checklist. You just had to read a lot of stuff, watch a lot of stuff, and it seemed like everything was going fine. It was not. It was going fine for a checklist, not for a security posture of a company. We had yearly pen tests, so we are hiring external penetration testers to test our products. We fixed the issues, and next year we were finding and fixing the same issues, because we haven't ever took a time to teach people how to write secure code in the first place. So it was just wasting money and wasting time and burning out people who had to fix issues of other people. Working as an independent consultant, it doesn't work. You just need to transfer that knowledge with others. We've tried many things. We've tried to be rude to other people, telling them that they ought to be doing something when they have no knowledge how to do it. So telling someone that they are supposed to be doing something without giving them tools to accomplish this task is just stupid. It's wishful thinking. I can tell every one of you, hey, go tomorrow to work and write secure code. It's like, thank you, genius. I know I want to do this, but how come can I do this? Just because you told me? Not really. It takes work. And we've tried many things. We tried becoming nihilists. We tried many drugs. We've tried stuff to figure out how to go about this. And many people got really wasted trying things that were just not really empathetic. We've tried many things over the past 4 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, maybe, something like this. And we found some things that can be found nowadays at exceptional companies. At those companies that most of us would love to work for. And those companies figured out a ways to do this. Because if some companies is on the market for a couple of decades, they really need to take care of long-term strategy. They must implement short-term tactics to achieve the long-term strategy. So you need to be thoughtful how you spend your money and how you spend time of your engineers. So we started creating relevant and entertaining trainings. We started giving people an opportunity to see how penetration tester works, how hackers work, and give them a glimpse of how it feels when you find a security issue, even if in your own code. So we figured out that secure SDLC really works. We found out that being empathetic instead of being rude and demanding really works as well. So if you talk to someone and ask them for help, it rarely happens that they refuse to help you just because they don't want to help you. If you ask someone for help, they will often help you, or at least try to help you. Obviously, sometimes it would be better if they just said no instead of trying to help us, but that's just a different story. And we have DevSecOps concepts, which is just secure SDLC with this empathetic leadership included. So instead of just plugging tools into your continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline, you actually talk to people, exchange the knowledge, let them know what's happening in the company. And we've stopped expecting different results from doing the same things over and over again. At most of the companies that you work for, you can see many processes and procedures and workflows that are being repeated for decades, for years, for hundreds of people, and it doesn't work, yet they're still trying this because it worked 20 years ago, so why wouldn't it work now? It doesn't. You get to change, you get to adapt to the ever-changing space. And it feels good to get in front of you and talk about stuff, but it's nothing really that I came up with on my own. Unfortunately, I learned that also after many years of trying dumb things. And in 2002, Microsoft came up with an idea of secure SDLC. So they mapped the whole software development lifecycle, and they've shared how they are going to secure each and every single phase of SDLC. And it turned out that it works. While publishing Windows 2003, the number of bugs compared to the previous release dropped for over 80%. So that was huge. It worked. It works. It worked for many companies. Many companies started implementing this. So what is it all about? No rocket science. You just deassemble the whole software development lifecycle, and you look at this and ask yourself a question, what can go wrong here? How can we do something to make it a little bit better by training other people so they don't repeat the same mistakes? Because education cures it all, and it actually helps many people and helped many companies, and it is something that solves those broken processes if you actually put in the work and educate ourselves on something and then educate others. And when you look at the software development lifecycle, it may seem like it's a lot. When you look at the secure SDLC, it may seem like it's a lot. It's really not. It's just a matter of looking at the couple of things, just dissecting those major phases and categories of SDLC and trying to figure out a way how to do something about this to make it slightly better. And it's not about reinventing a wheel anymore. No one here can say, hey, I don't know how to secure SDLC. I don't know how to do something that you are talking about. Because everything is in Google, so you can just Google it out. You can Google out how to secure continuous integration and continuous delivery, and you have all the tools handy. You can figure out how other companies are doing this, and companies such as Netflix and Spotify, all those great companies, are proud, and they are very eager to share all their knowledge on the presentations, on conferences, so they just publish all those things. You can just take them and implement it at your own company. It doesn't take much time. You take a tool from the list, you plug it into your continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline, and now you accomplish something. You've started with something. So why aren't we doing it already? That's a good question. I've asked it myself, so obviously that's a good question. But we are just humans, and humans lack patience. If we had invested in Amazon stocks in 2008, $1,000, we would have made over $23,000 by now. So over 10 years, almost 4 times return from investment. So that's huge, but who would wait that many years? Wouldn't it be better to just buy cryptocurrencies and then sell them? Like everyone is looking at that, and how many people are interested in buying long-term stocks? Not really many. That's the human nature. And also we are confused and we lack perspective. So many people think that doing some security involves doing this, or having Tor on your team doing some crazy hacking. This is from a movie Black Hat. I don't know. I haven't ever seen a hacker or a penetration tester that looks like Tor. Like, come on. If you are looking like Tor, you don't work in... I want to say IT, but no, that's too harsh. You don't work in security space, really. You look like me, like short, weird guy, and that's cool. That's what you look like usually. And there are exceptions, like, there are just exceptions. But not really, not that many. So you just need this. One resource, one white paper from OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project Organization, non-profit organization that's producing a lot of content for all of us to consume, easy to consume content, training that's relevant, training that's refreshed almost yearly, and we can learn from that. We can pick one book, read it, a couple hundred pages, and now we can do better. Or we can just pick a checklist from OWASP, and now we can do much better. And we are not doing this already because we have hard time setting reasonable goals. If you want to lose some weight or just get healthier, it It's enough if you stop eating crap food, if you just start moving, doing something. And many people just stop because they look at Instagram and see guys like this. And they're like, wow, so much work. But is that really your target? Is that really your goal? You don't want to make that happen for yourself. And definitions of effectiveness differ a lot. So 99% of things that top 1% of companies are doing isn't practical for other 99% of companies. So we look at companies like Facebook, Spotify, Netflix, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and we just try to copy them, and we see how much effort it takes to build what they have built. And we are just confused, because most of the stuff they are doing is something that we may be capable of doing 10 years from now if we start doing something now. So we just look at the path, we look at the process, we look how they accomplish, how they get to the point they are now, and try to replicate the steps. But we are confused at the look and the end goal. Or look at the huge company, where for our company it would be enough if we started installing antivirus on our workstations. So that's an example. It's really not that tough to make software engineers security advocates. You just give them tools, you just give them resources, and when someone asks me why security is hard, the answer is security is hard because it's hard. Like, why discipline is hard? Because it's hard. Why becoming a first league football player is hard? Because it's hard. Like, there is nothing exceptional about this. Some things are just hard by nature, and you just need to do them if you want to improve. If you want to have your products more secure, then sitting and complaining that it's hard, it takes work, that your software engineers don't want to put in the work, that they do not want to learn security, it's not going to change anything. You must give them time and space to learn about security. You must create for them an environment in which they can learn, earn those competencies that then later can use in the workplace to create more secure environment. So there are simple things that we can do after leaving this talk that will improve the security posture of most of our companies significantly. Because in most companies I've consulted, there was always one answer. There is so much stuff to do. Obviously, because you haven't started doing it early on, if you had set a goal of implementing one tool, one static analysis tool, one dynamic analysis tool, each quarter, then for the past 10 years, you would have implemented 40 tools. That's a huge number of tools. Like, Facebook doesn't really have that many tools that are practical and productive. So you could have accomplished a lot if you had taken those baby steps. And it's not like wooby-jaboo, rah-rah coaching bullshit that, hey, take little steps, you are going to become whatever you want to become. Not really, but you can improve, you can do those little things, and you can do 3 things at your organization that are going to take you 5 minutes. Download one binary, let's say you are coding in Python. Download OpenStack Bandit tool and run it against your Python code base. Then at least you have something that analyzes your code. And now you have an opportunity to look at those results. So you just taken one step. Don't look at those results if you're overwhelmed right after the tests have been run. Take a week, take a month, but you have this report. So next time you want to do some security, you don't need to download the tool, install the tool, do the research. You just open the report and you take a look. And you try to find something valuable, something worthwhile. Then send the link to OWASP organization, to send a link to your colleagues with some OWASP resource, with some tool, with some guideline, with some book, with some white paper, something that just going to get them started. So do something, because lack of awareness is the biggest problem that I've seen at many companies. People just don't know where to look help, and it's all around. Like, we are afraid of asking questions, and there is no reason to do that. Like, Google is not going to scream at you for asking a question. They are paid for that, so that's cool. And deploy one tool for CTFs, for workshops, for learning how to hack. You download the application that guides you through the process of finding security issues. You deployed it on Friday afternoon, and with other colleagues you try to hack an application, and you have a scoreboard. You see who's better, who's doing better. You have this solid and healthy competition. You are doing something to make it better. And obviously, nothing is a silver bullet. I came here to just tell you that it's possible to do something. There are many companies that have done what we want to accomplish, but they just have invested their time in the process, not just looked at the end goal. So if you shoot non-bullets, it's not going to make any impact. So just try to do something, and maybe you are going to hit something, or you're just going to be more experienced with guns, with shooting, with aiming, and that's going to build you some leverage and foundations for future work. Pick right tool. Like, don't look at those huge tools, commercial tools. Pick anything. There is enough open source tools to do a damage at your company and to change something for better. Security automation is feasible. Absolutely. You have Selenium tests? Awesome. Download the tools such as Bear Suite or OSBZAP and plug it into your test, automated test as a proxy. So you set up a binary. It's a local proxy that has an engine to scan all the endpoints and requests and responses that you are sending. In your Selenium tests, change one line of config to proxy all your traffic through that tool. It's going to scan all those endpoints that you are communicating with your regular test cases, and it's going to print you some results. It's not going to be awesome. It's not going to be as effective as hiring penetration testers, but it's doing something, and something is better than none. Software engineers and sysadmins should be as close to security as possible. We just need to share this knowledge, and there is enough knowledge in the space that no one can really stop you, and we can just sit around and complain, or we can just take an action and ownership over the process. So don't get paralyzed by how many things are required to build a secure organization. Focus on building a secure organization rather than having this mindset of wanting to have a secure organization. You want to have an organization that's safer and safer each and every day, maybe month, maybe year. You don't want to safe organization because such concepts don't really exist. There is no secure organization. There are safer organizations, and they are just at the bottom that are doing nothing because they are crippled by the amount of work necessary. So take a look at those steps, pick one thing, and do something about it. And this one thing that's necessary when you want to have a healthy corporate culture, when you exchange the knowledge and change the knowledge. So it's not like a huge promo, it's a free book available on my blog. You can download it, you can read it, and not repeat the mistakes I've done. You can learn how to actually convert software engineers into security advocates. I just wanted to tell you that it's possible. Now it's your homework to learn about other things. And then in this presentation, you have 20 slides with tools that can get you started. So it's not like I'm leaving you in the blank. There are tools, just you need to do some homework. Thank you.
Dawid Bałut. Thank you very much. Would you be comfortable with one or two questions?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
So let's try it out. Slido, please. And the first question is, I guess, the top one from Monika. Is it possible to automate security testing and discovering such issues?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I've said, you just download one binary, you deploy it on your, let's say, build server. It's acting as a local proxy. It has an engine to scan for security issues, scan all requests and responses and modify them, perform fast testing and all those crazy things. You just configure your existing automated test cases, run it through that tool, and it's going to do a lot of damage for you. You can download the binaries when you just enter a URL, and it's going to do a lot of stuff. So effectiveness of these tools depends on the person that's running this, because there need to be some configuration and some tweaks. Also, it depends on the quality of the tool, but it's at least something. It's not going to be as great as hiring Kevin Mitnick to test your product, but you've done something. So yeah, many things can be automated. And if most companies on the planet have used a single tool to automate the security processes, security testing processes, like OWASP and plugging into CI/CD, world would be a completely different place. So yeah.
Thank you. And Monika, just make sure that you collect your gift later. And question number 2, please. From technical point of view, where hackers find most holes in the system, where do developers leave all the Eastern bugs, eggs, bunnies, you know, the Easter thing, I guess, for hackers?
They really don't. The problem with secure software engineering is that most software engineers create security issues because they don't have time to think about security. So they really don't have much time to deploy any Easter eggs or deploy something for hackers. They have no time to think about security without even mentioning building something for hackers.
Thank you very much. That was really inspirational, and I myself feel motivated. Maybe I will become an IT person after all.
Awesome. Fabulous.
What you've told me. I would be the worst learner ever, though.
That's cool. I used to be the worst also.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Let's thank again Dawid Bałut.